Welcome to the Golfish Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Goodman. Every week on our show, we're going to bring you fascinating interviews with the families, coaches, caddies, and industry professionals of the PGA, LPGA, Champions Tour, and beyond. Subscribe now so you don't miss a minute of the action. This week we have Kyle Peters. Kyle is a PGA Tour caddy that's currently working with Corey Connors, but has an extensive history in the PGA, Korn Ferry, LPGA, and Champions Tours in his 10 years as a professional caddy. Kyle shares with us the differences between not only the tours, but how he supports his players. If you're interested in how Kyle went from D1 athlete to professional caddy, his newest sports obsession, and what it was like caddying his first round at Augusta National, then this episode's for you. Let's get started. How is Riviera today?
It was nice. We played the back nine, and then after that, I just got done walking the front nine. So it looks good.
The pictures you were posting are gorgeous. I have not been there, so I'm living vicariously through you.
This is my first time, and getting to walk at sunset. It's a beautiful time of day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So obviously a lot of people probably knew your name and Corey's name from last year at the Masters. So before we dive into all of that, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Who is Kyle Peters?
Okay. Yeah, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I'm 28 years old. I went to Robert Morris University in Pittsburgh, and I played golf there. So that's kind of, I got into caddying while I was in college as a summer job, just through people that I'd grown up with. And I've been doing it for almost 10 years now. So that's a little background info on me.
Did you grow up in Charleston?
I did. I was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we lived near there until I was 5. So, that's when we moved to Charleston. And other than going to school, I've lived there for pretty much my whole life.
You have very little of a Southern accent, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's just because of how well traveled I am.
Yeah, yeah, you get around a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've read a handful of articles that you've been a part of and interviewed for, and you speak very highly of your time at Robert Morris. Tell us more about what it was like at Robert Morris. When you went up there, when you were playing golf, kind of what drove you to the game of golf and to continue that into college?
Yeah. I guess I started playing golf because of my dad and my grandpa. And then when I got to high school, I kind of had to make a decision. I also played baseball growing up. So, I kind of had to make a decision between those two sports, and I chose golf. I had a high school coach that I didn't agree with a whole lot, so that made it kind of easy, and I chose golf. And I actually went to Spartanburg Methodist College. It's a junior college in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So I went there for 2 years, and had been talking to a few different Division I schools, and I ended up going with Robert Morris. One of my other options was Charleston Southern, and I had just grown up there in Charleston, so I wanted to do something different. They have a good sports management program at Robert Morris. So, I decided to go up there and do something different. So that's how I ended up there.
So what type of sports fan are you? Like, what are the professional teams that you follow or you cheer for?
Well, there's not a whole lot of major sports around Charleston. The closest thing we have is like Jacksonville, Atlanta, Charlotte, and those are all at least 4 hours away from Charleston. So, growing up, I didn't really ever cheer for any of those teams. So when I went to school in Pittsburgh, I kind of adopted all the Pittsburgh teams. So I'm a Penguins, Pirates, Steelers fan.
See, I was really worried that's where we were going to go with that answer.
Yeah. Since I've graduated and I haven't been living there, it's kind of hard to keep up with them, on the road. I'm pretty busy, so I don't keep up with a whole lot. I do love my Charleston sports. So we don't have any major teams. We've got the South Carolina Stingrays is a minor league hockey team. And the winter time is obviously my free time. So I get to go to a lot of their games. And I love going to River Dogs games in Charleston too during the summertime, but not home a whole lot.
Yeah.
Get to go to those.
No, not at all. We're based in Cincinnati, so I have zero interest in sports outside of golf. So I don't lose a lot of sleep over the Bengals-Steelers rivalry, but it is something that is alive and well in Cincinnati, which obviously was not very alive and well this year, but with our single win.
Oh, yeah.
But it is something that you can't get away from during football season here.
Yeah.
So you mentioned growing up in the South. Did you have more of an opportunity to play golf and baseball? Like, were they not necessarily longer seasons, but just an ability to continue to play those a little bit easier than maybe like for us up north? Football is cold most of the time.
Yeah.
So is it different practicing in the South for you to like maintain that throughout high school and college and then obviously make a career out of it?
I think, growing up down in the South, both sports were year round.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But when you get to high school, baseball and golf are both spring sports. So that's kind of where I ran into my where I needed to make a decision of which sport to go with. But yeah, growing up in the South, I think it's great because you got all year to do whatever sport you want to play. Obviously, sports like hockey, that's a little different. There's not too many hockey players coming out of the South, but for baseball, football, all the outdoor sports, it's great. Yeah.
And then you caddy for someone. Corey's Canadian, correct?
He is, yeah.
So it's kind of like the opposite, right? Like you're into hockey being in the South, and then he's into golf being from Canada. I can only imagine he's obviously a huge hockey fan too, because I think that just comes in their blood naturally. Oh, yeah. But how did Corey become so interested in golf in a place that realistically they have to have a decently short season?
Yeah. I believe I'm not sure if it was his dad or his grandpa, but one of them got him into playing, and obviously it's kind of a short season. You only have about 6 months out of the year to play. So he played hockey and he played golf growing up, and he really liked hanging up the golf clubs for 6 months and doing something different. That way he didn't get worn out. So and he loves hockey, and he's rubbed off on me a lot too. Since I've been caddying for him, I've really started to get into the game a lot more. We listened to the Spit and Chicklets podcast, so since I started listening to that, I've started to fall in love with it. I'm in the market for some new equipment, so that's on my shopping list.
That's funny. Yeah. So do you play hockey too?
No, I grew up, I played like a little street hockey, and I went to a hockey camp.
Okay.
But since I've been working for Corey, obviously I started listening to this podcast. I've got a bunch of Canadian buddies that also caddy out here on tour. And when I was in Vegas over the Christmas break, one of them goes to like open skates. So I went with him, and I suited up and everything, and I loved it. I had a great time, and it's a good workout. So
that's so fun.
I'm looking forward to getting into my time off.
Yeah, for sure. So how long have you been with Corey?
This is our third year together. We started, I guess it was September of 2017, something like that. Yeah. And
you have, if my research is correct, you've caddied on the web.com or like Korn Ferry Tour, LPGA and PGA Tour. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you feel are the biggest differences as a caddy between the three tours?
Let's see. That definitely with the web and the PGA, dealing with guys, you don't have to encourage them as much, and there's not as much psychological work, I guess you could say. On the girls' tour, it's a lot more mental, where you're kind of you're almost a psychologist for them as well. That's why I'm really thankful to work for a guy like Corey. I don't have to worry about saying anything to him. He's really quiet and nothing really rattles him. So I never have to pump him up or calm him down, really anything like that. Those are on the golf course. I think those are the two biggest differences. Girls, it's a lot of psychological work, and the guys not as much. Off the golf course, obviously the caddying on the web.com tour monetarily is brutal. You're just trying to break even every week. If you're on the LPGA, you can make a little bit of money, but there's not really, if you're out there, there's not really much room for you to improve. You can't really go up any higher. You're not going to get to the PGA from the LPGA. And that's kind of one of the things I realized. I also caddied on the Champions Tour for a year.
Oh, okay.
And one of the reasons I switched from the LPGA was because I realized I wasn't going to get out to the PGA from being on that tour. So I had a chance to go on the Champions Tour, and after being out there for a year, I realized it was kind of like the same thing. You're not, you can't improve, as far as a caddy, you can't get to a higher level from the Champions Tour. So that's when I went back to the web.com or Korn Ferry tour. And I worked out there for a year, and that's where I met Corey and how we got linked up. So
you were with Corey on the Korn Ferry?
No, we were not. But the year that I met him, I was actually making these like little handheld greens books. I would just pace every 5 yards and put a little arrow in the book. It was all hand drawn. And I would sell those to the guys, and he was one of the guys that would buy them every week. So,
okay.
That's how we met. And when he got his card, he called me and asked me to come out here with him.
That's so cool. I'm always fascinated by how people switched between, because we've had a couple of caddies on so far. I'm fascinated by how they've made the transition between players. So what has your transition been like as you have gone between players and between tours? How did you find your player, or how did they find you?
Let's see. I first started caddying on the women's tour, and I was working for a girl, Veronica Fellenberg, and I worked for her for about 4 years. And then I had the opportunity. I caddied at a guy's first stage in Florence, South Carolina, kind of close to Charleston. And when I caddied there, I got linked up with the guy, Wes Homan. He's a Cincinnati guy.
Oh, cool. I
caddied for him there, and he ended up not making it through, but he's good buddies with Scott Harrington. And Scott was looking for someone, and Wes gave him my info. So that's how me and Scott got together. So I worked for Scott for a year on the web.com tour, and he lost his status a little bit. So from there, I went back to the women's tour. It wasn't so much of a panic after he lost his card. I had a lot of connections out there, and so I went back out there for a little bit. And I went back to work for Veronica, actually.
Okay.
And then my only deal with her was I wanted to be able to go to some PGA Tour events. If I got a phone call, I could go and work any week. So I was doing a bunch of Monday qualifiers, and I was, getting bags here and there. So I got to know a lot more of the guys out here, and that's how I got linked up with Steve Lowry, and he took me out on the Champions Tour for a year.
Okay.
And then after a year, Steve hadn't been playing great, and I kind of had also realized, I needed to do something different to get out here on the PGA. So we split up after a year. It was his decision. We hadn't played well at all, and I kind of knew it was coming, and he let me know after a tournament that he was going to do something different. And at that point, it was kind of like, whoa, what do I do? So whenever you split up with someone, there's a little bit of a panic. But so then I went down to the Latin tour, actually. Because this was, the LPGA was over in Asia, the PGA was in the playoffs, the web was in the playoffs, so I couldn't get anything else. So I just was like, you know what, I'll go down to the Latin tour, and I worked for a buddy down there for 4 or 5 weeks. And after that, I got linked up with somebody on the web.com tour. So I was out there for another season, and then that's where I met Corey and how we got out here. So
that's
a lot of back and forth.
Crazy.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth between different tours for me.
Right. So we had Jen Harrington on the podcast a few weeks ago. So it's interesting because we didn't talk about the different caddies that Scott had or anything because it was really focused on her experience with the web.com and Korn Ferry Tour and now the PGA Tour and those differences and things. But it's so fascinating to me how much people are intertwined in this game.
Yeah.
And how, obviously y'all all know each other. Like I was prepared for that, but like how much y'all have worked together is crazy to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's, once you get to the professional level, in the golf world, it's a really small world and everybody kind of knows everybody. And I mean, you could probably put me over in the Asian tour somewhere I've never worked, and I'm sure I would be able to find somebody over there with a mutual friend. Or it's a small world. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're switching, so a couple of things here. When you lose a bag or like mutually or otherwise in the middle of the season, is that easier or harder than at the end of the season?
I'd say they're equally tough. If you're in the middle of the season, there's at least times where, I mean, you could go to the next event or the next couple of events, and every week, you've got Monday qualifiers, so you have the opportunity to pick somebody up, and guys obviously see that you're looking for work, and you can get picked up. And then also in the off season, you hear of, what caddies and players have split up, and you kind of know what's going on, and you know who's looking, who's not looking. So it's both are tough situations. You just got to do a little work to kind of do a little work and get lucky also to find somebody else to work for.
I love that you said the off season because when I can't remember who I was interviewing, I said something about the off season and they just kind of laughed and they're like, "You mean like the week and a half we're off after the FedEx now?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." Because to people that don't watch golf as much, obviously, and aren't as involved as you, it seems like there's this big gap between FedEx Cup and like waste management kind of, but really like the Masters. It's like, that's when golf really kicks off for a lot of people. And it's like, and I remember talking to a friend and being like, "Oh no, they restart in 2 weeks." Like they have zero time off. How do you handle that? I mean, how often with Corey now, like how many weeks are you playing and traveling in a year?
Yeah. Corey will play somewhere between 25 and 30 weeks a year. But what's nice when you get in the situation where he is, where you've won a tournament, you can make your own off season. So we played the 3 Asia events, and then we hung it up after that. We didn't play Mexico. We didn't play Sea Island. So we probably had a good 7 or 8 weeks in between those Asia tournaments in Hawaii. But if you're less fortunate, you don't have a win, you got to be playing every week. Yeah, there's not a lot of time off.
Yeah. Why is that because he has a win, he's able to take time off versus a non-win?
When you win a tournament, you have a 2-year exemption on the tour. And then you're also,
got it.
You win a tournament, you're getting into bigger events like the WGCs, the majors, things like that. So you're almost guaranteed more points, by getting a win. So there's a lot less stress and you don't have to play every single week. When you're in like the Korn Ferry graduate category, you got to play every week that you get into. And your weeks off, you're not planning. Well, your weeks off are scheduled by the tour, kind of, tournaments that you're not getting into almost. You don't get to pick and choose your schedule really. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. That's fascinating. So, so you've been with Corey for 3+ years. How did you two, when you first came together, like how did you two figure out how to work together?
Mm-hmm. It just takes, a couple weeks, I think 2 or 3 weeks. You kind of get to know each other's personalities. And, Corey just does his normal thing. It's more for me learning his personality, when to talk, when not to talk, when to tell him, maybe ease up on this club, or, when's helping you a lot. It just takes 2 or 3 weeks with whatever play you're working for, just to kind of learn each other's mentality and things like that.
Do you have veto power?
What's that?
Do you have veto power? Like if he like is like, I want to use this, and you're like, that's really a bad idea, Corey. Like maybe not.
Corey is he's a really, really smart player, and he manages his way around the golf course very well.
Mm-hmm.
And he, I would say he never really wants to do anything stupid. And a lot of the time, if he's confused, he'll say, "What do you think?" And most of the time, I tell him what I think, and he goes with what I think. So I wouldn't call it veto power. He's just really smart, and he weighs the risks and advantages, risk and reward really well. So yeah, I don't really need the veto power.
Is that typical on tour?
Yeah, it just depends on who the player and who the caddies are. And the longer you work together too, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah, it just depends who you are, what caddy and what player it is.
Tell us about last year as a Monday qualifier. He wins at Valero, and then obviously you guys qualify for Augusta for the Masters. Mm-hmm. What was it like for him as first of all, can you explain what a Monday qualifier is? But as a Monday qualifier to go on and have such an incredible week in Texas and earn that last spot, like when did y'all realize like, oh, this is like, we're going to Augusta next week? Like the whole, like everything about our next few weeks has changed.
Yeah. So the Monday qualifier, every Monday you have on the PGA, it's a 4-spot qualifier. You have anywhere between 60 and 150 guys that come out and play in this qualifier. And they take 4 spots. So that week, we tied for the 4th spot. So we were in a 6-for-1 playoff. And we got through that playoff, last person in the field. Yeah. And then we had a good week going. Saturday night was when I first started to think about the Masters kind of. I'm not sure how much Corey was thinking about it. But I was thinking about it all day Sunday. And I never, like, we finished our 17th hole. Coming to 18, we had a 3-shot lead, and one of the other caddies looked at me and was like, "Man, why don't you smile? You know, we're playing for second place." I was like, "Shut up, man. We still got one hole left." And we hit it up on the green, and I think we had 3 putts to win. And when he tapped in, that's when I was like, "All right, man, we're going to Augusta," which was pretty sweet.
That's incredible. Yeah. My husband and I were watching the tournament yesterday, and Nick was on, I want to say he was on 15. It might have been 16. And he had a chip in. And the commentators were like, "Well, that just won the tournament." And my husband and I looked at each other and were like, do they realize how many tournaments they've ruined by saying that?
Yeah.
Because we watch it and you can't celebrate that much yet. Like there are still plenty of, and I don't know like how much you watched yesterday, but there were plenty of holes that people were falling apart on at the end that it was like, you can't, like, don't count your eggs before they hatch. Like, I feel like that's where we sometimes get with TV. Yeah.
Especially that 18th hole there. I wouldn't, I was never comfortable until we were up on the green about 4 feet from the hole to tap in. That's when I finally got pretty comfortable. So
you're like, okay, I can smile now, relax, breathe a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So you changed all your travel plans, went to Augusta. What was it like?
It was awesome. It's everything I've really dreamed of. Growing up in Charleston, I'm only a couple hours away from there. So I've had plenty of chances to go. And I've always wanted to wait until I get to work it. So the way that we got in was awesome. I got there Monday morning, and they didn't have my credentials ready for me, so I had to wait at the gate for about half an hour.
Oh my gosh!
And they walked me in, and I've never been there, so I don't know where I'm at on the ground.
Yeah.
They show me the you walk through the back gate and you go straight into the caddy locker room area. And so they took me in there. I got my jumpsuit, and they walked me out the back doors, and it was like heaven on earth. It was awesome. You walk right out onto the driving range, and everything's perfect. All the caddies walking around, the best players in the world. It was really cool. So
it's a magical place.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't seem real. When you decided not to go there, when you had the opportunity previously, was that like a high school decision, a college decision? Was that when you were already a caddy and you were like, you know what? Nope, I'm just going to wait until I get there. Like, how early on did you decide that?
Probably, yeah, it was probably like in high school. I was probably dreaming of playing it. And then obviously, when I got into college, I realized that wasn't really a achievable goal. So, but that's when I started caddying, and I was like, you know what? I guess I'll just wait until I caddy it. So, yeah.
So what was it like? Did you go out and scout the course by yourself? Did Corey, did you during the practice round, was that the first time you saw the full course?
Let's see. Monday, he didn't do anything Monday, so I got to go out, and I walked the first 9, and then they had some weather, so the horns blew, and I didn't get to see the back 9 on Monday. And then I believe Tuesday morning, before he got out there, I went and walked the second 9, and then we went out and played all 18.
Okay.
So.
I feel like Augusta, over the past few years, the weather has changed so significantly. Like, it's either perfect the week leading up to it, the whole week of it, you never notice anything, or there's like some torrential downpour or potential tornado that's coming through that you're just like hoping that you'll be able to play.
Yeah. This year it was a little wet in the beginning of the week, but for the rest of the week it was perfect.
Yeah. Until like Sunday when they went to do the green jacket ceremony and they're like, we're not going to do it. Oh, just kidding. We are going to do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which that was a little brutal, but Corey had a fantastic week that week too. Like, how did both of you prepare for the pressure? Because everyone knew who you were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess there wasn't really preparation. We were just happy to be there. And I wouldn't say there was much pressure. We had just won the week before and weren't planning on being there, and then we're there. So we're just happy to be there. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was pretty cool. On Thursday, I think we eagled 15 to get to, I think it was 3 under, and that was in the lead at that point. And I looked up and I saw him put his name up on top of the leaderboard, and I was like, man, that's sweet.
That's crazy.
And then coming up 18, I looked and we were still up there. It was really cool. So,
did any of your family get to come and experience it with you?
Yeah, they unfortunately for caddies, they don't give us any tickets.
Oh, why is that?
Good question. Maybe
let's petition.
Yeah, exactly. But I think they give the players, 4 tickets or something like that, and they can purchase an extra 5 or 6 at the members' price. So Corey was nice enough to give me, I think he gave me like 1 each day. So my girlfriend got to come out, my mom came out, my dad came out, kind of on all separate days, I think. But the nice thing about Augusta, if you have a ticket, you get a re-entry with it. So you could have, like, for this year, now I know, like, my mom could come in and watch the first 9,
mm-hmm.
go out, meet my dad, and he can come in and watch the second 9. So, yeah, that's one of the nice things about those tickets there. Yeah,
for sure. Is that every tournament the caddies don't get tickets, or is Augusta just like another level of special when it comes to that?
Yep, that's just another level of special.
That sounds about right, though, doesn't it?
Tournament, they're pretty nice to us about giving us tickets, but yeah, that's what makes it one of the best tournaments in the world, I guess. It's a very exclusive place.
Mm-hmm. So. It's hallowed ground. It's an amazing experience to be there.
Yeah.
Exactly. When I've talked to other caddies, this has tended to come up, and just because it's kind of along the same lines of the caddies not getting tickets at Augusta. What are the differences that you see between player treatment and caddy treatment, and like where that could and should shift in the future?
Let's see. Their dining facilities are a lot better. Obviously, the locker rooms are awesome. They don't always. I don't think we're allowed in the dining areas. For the locker rooms, it's kind of hit or miss at different tournaments, which ones they let us in and which ones they don't. I think we're allowed in either after a missed cut on Friday or after the tournament finishes on Sunday, we're allowed to go in and pack up the locker and load up the clubs and all that stuff. As far as the caddies go, our areas are improving, where we get to hang out. It varies by tournament. Sometimes they've got us in a really nice area of the clubhouse. Other times they have us like in a tent outside. But for me, caddying on all these different tours, I've seen the Latin tour where we don't get fed. They don't even have an area for us.
Oh, wow.
And I come out here on the PGA Tour and I'm so grateful. And there's a lot of guys out here that complain a lot about it. And I'm like, dude, just be thankful you're out
there.
Yeah,
like you just don't even understand.
You could be somewhere where you're not even getting fed or you're paying to have lunch or breakfast or whatever. So, the times where it's not good is when there's bad weather and we're stuck outside. That's when you're like, you guys could put us somewhere a little bit better. But
right.
That's the only times where I really think about complaining.
Has it, I guess, when did it, because obviously you've been a caddy for 10 years, but you've bounced around some of the tours. Has it started getting better in like the past 5 or 10 years? Is that something that's newer that's getting better?
Yeah. I was at the Honda Classic. It's probably been 5 years ago when there was like a huge thunderstorm that rolled through, and the caddy area there used to be outside in a tent kind of, and there's not room for everybody. Guys are like standing in the rain. If a lightning strike happens, we're screwed.
Right.
And after that tournament, a lot of people spoke out about it, and it started to improve there. And another thing that's helped, Levelware has started sponsoring some of the different tournaments that we're at. They sponsor the caddy areas, and they bring in barbers. They give us massages, haircuts.
Oh, that's cool.
Giving us clothes at every tournament. And a lot of other tournaments are seeing what Levelware is doing for us. They're like, man, we really need to up our game.
Yeah.
So they've helped improve the caddy areas a lot as well. That's
cool. Yeah. When you were on the LPGA and Korn Ferry, is it kind of similar to what, I assume it's more similar to the PGA side than the Latin Tour side?
Yeah, the LPGA, they actually allow caddies in the dining area, which is great.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
The Korn Ferry Tour, there's times where you don't even get fed there, too. There's tournaments where they just give you, like, hot dogs and a Coke, and that's it. Or pizza, or, they're not thinking about the caddies at those tournaments. So I guess in that regards, the LPGA and PGA are kind of similar. They feed us well on those tours. So.
I saw one of the articles talked about you had some superstitions about Augusta because you had like a hot dog before and after around for a couple of days. So you like kept going. I'll be really honest. I didn't even know Augusta National served hot dogs. So I was very fascinated by that. Because I personally am a big fan of the egg sandwich or egg salad sandwich. My husband's more of the pimento cheese type. And I'm like, meh, didn't grow up with that. I'll take some egg salad. So what kind of drove you to like this hot dog thing at Augusta?
Well, the week before in San Antonio, we went to a Spurs game Thursday night, and I had a hot dog at the game. And we came out, maybe it was Wednesday night. Wednesday night I had a hot dog at the game. Thursday we had a good round, so I was like, oh, you know what? I'll have a hot dog for lunch. So I had a hot dog for lunch. And then Friday, same thing, had a hot dog for lunch, and then we played well in that afternoon. So Saturday, I think we're in the final group, and I'm like, I've had hot dogs the last 3 days. Might as well keep this going. So I had a hot dog Saturday. Sunday, I had a hot dog again. We won. Then we got to Augusta. I'm like, I guess I got to keep it rolling. So I just kept having hot dogs all week, and we didn't win. And after that, I was like, all right, thank you. I'm done with the hot dogs.
Right? Like, I've had enough of these. We're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you try like the pimento cheese sandwich?
Or did
you literally?
Yeah,
oh, okay. I was like, were you exclusively eating hot dogs at Augusta?
Yeah, you got to have it if you're there.
Yeah, it's not my jam. I mean, I will say it is better than like the pimento that you get at like now Kroger. If we go pick it up or something, it's obviously much better than that. But it's just, I don't know, I'm partial to a lot of other things that they have there too. It's just again, fascinating experience.
Yeah, and that was tough at Augusta just to eat hot dogs all week because that's probably the nicest dining they have all year for caddies. If you don't like what's on the buffet, you can just order off the grill. You can kind of get whatever you want. So it was tough to just get hot dogs all week.
People are looking at you like, "What are you doing, dude?" Like,
well,
hey,
yeah,
but it worked out.
Everybody in there knew exactly what I was doing.
But it worked out. Corey had a great few rounds. Like it all worked out. It was great.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. So what does the rest of 2020, like the 2020 season, look like for you and Corey? Where are you? Obviously, you're at Riviera for the Genesis right now. Where are you headed next? What does the rest of the year look like?
Let's see. We've got next week we're at the WGC Mexico. Then we're playing Honda, Arnold Palmer, Players, and that'll be 5 weeks in a row. So we're going to take a week off after that. Hopefully, we're going to be in the match play. Then San Antonio, obviously, to defend. The Masters we're in. The week after is RBC. He's sponsored by them, so we have to play that one. And then I think we're taking a week off after RBC. We're in all the WGCs, all the majors, and hoping for the Olympics.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah, that's those teams aren't locked up right now, so we've got a little bit of work to do, but that's one of the goals that we've got. So that's as of right now, that's kind of what our schedule is. I know through Hilton Head, and then after that, it's kind of just decide how we're feeling for that second half of the season.
So he is sponsored by RBC. So did you play Hilton Head last year?
Yeah, we did. We played it the last 2 years.
Okay, so last year was the first time I had been to the to Hilton Head. Well, literally to Hilton Head, but also to the RBC. And I was so shocked at like how different it is than other golf tournaments in terms of how close you are to players and caddies. Does it feel different like that to you guys too?
A little bit, yeah. That golf course is really tight. And everything's tree lined, so there's not a whole lot of space for spectators. So it does make it probably where you feel like you're a little bit closer to players than normal. Yeah.
We just felt like we would be like walking by, or like players and caddies, or like different players and different like two caddies or two players would be walking together, and you could hear their conversation. Like it was just so fascinating.
Yeah. That golf course is so tight that I'm sure that happens. The fairways aren't too wide, and if you hit a ball offline, you're outside the ropes. So that's when you're rubbing elbows with the players. Yeah, exactly.
So you have a really busy 2020 season, the rest of the season planned. So the big goals are the Olympics, and what else? Like, what else should we be expecting and watching for you and Corey over the next eight-ish months?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Probably definitely get another win, get to the Tour Championship, Olympics, things like that. And obviously just keep climbing up the world rankings as high as we can.
So would Corey play the President's Cup being Canadian? Because he plays under a Canadian flag, correct? Yeah. So the Olympics would be under the Canadian, would they be under Canada or the U.S.?
Canada. Yeah.
Okay. Is that have you done a President's Cup?
No, this year was probably the closest. It was definitely the closest I've ever been. We were really close. We were probably the first person out. When it was Ben on that they called him, but I think Ernie did a lot of his captain picks based off of like some people that were doing analytics or whatever, and they were kind of telling him that they wanted to go with people who are good putters, and that's one of Corey's weaknesses. So I'm not sure for sure.
Because he was doing it very like Moneyball-esque.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if that's 100% the reason that we didn't get picked, but that's what I've heard. So.
Okay. Would that be weird to be cheering against the U.S.?
No, I don't think so. Obviously, me and Corey are a team, and I'm with him 100%. So yeah, I'm on his side.
Yeah. We had Paul Tesori on right before.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like the week before the President's Cup, and he was like, you cheer for whose team you're on. He's like, it's just,
exactly.
It is what it is. And he's like, you're not necessarily cheering against anyone, but like, you want like the team that you're on to be the winner, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of, you get in that situation and you're not really thinking about where you're from. You're just doing your job and trying to help your guy as much as you can and hope your team wins. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Kyle, it has been such a pleasure to chat with you. I would love to play a quick 9 if you have a couple more minutes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. What, the first question I have to know, how did you get your nickname?
So my last name's Peters, and it was in college. Somebody called me the wrong name, Peppers, and I got stuck.
And it just stuck. Yeah. Well, that makes it easy. Who is the funniest caddy on tour?
Off the top of my head, it's either Gino Benelli or Aaron Fleener.
Oh, Aaron.
Gino caddies for Joel Damon and Fleener's with JT Poston.
I know Fleener just because when I'm trying to think of what tournament it was that he like sang.
Oh yeah, the karaoke in New Orleans.
Yeah. So he became famous in his own right with that one. What is your favorite snack on the course?
Every day I have a protein bar. Normally it's a Quest bar, and it's either after hole 2 or after hole 10. So I look forward to that every day. Yeah.
No hot dogs. That's not the favorite anymore.
No. Yeah.
What is your favorite tournament of the year to caddy?
Augusta, 100%.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Let's see. It depends on the week. If it's an off week, night owl. If I'm working, I'm an early bird.
Just have to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
Who would you want to play around with or caddy for?
Who would I want to play around with? Tiger. Caddy for probably Jack Nicklaus or Arnold Palmer. I'm sure you could just in 18 holes with one of those guys. I'm sure you could learn a lot.
Yeah. I mean, they did have some pretty stiff competition when you were just caddying for your dad, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was fun. That was cool.
He looked like he was pretty, critical of your caddying abilities.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Growing up, he would come out there and caddy for me every once in a while, so that was cool to switch the roles a little bit. Yeah.
Do you prefer a beach, ocean, or mountain vacation?
Let's see. Ocean.
Ocean, okay. What can't you live without in golf?
Let's see. What can't I live without? Corey's unbelievable ball striking.
If you could give Corey one club, he could only play one club that like a round or even a hole, what would that be?
Let's see. If he was going to play an entire round, I would give him a 7-iron.
7-iron. Would he agree?
Yeah. Yeah, he would probably go somewhere in that range, 6 or 7-iron.
Okay. All right. So, Kyle, again, it has been an absolute pleasure. Where can we find you online to continue the conversation and follow all of your amazing adventures and photography?
Yeah, my Instagram is Kyle_Peppers, and I believe that's with a Z. Twitter is the same thing, Kyle_Peppers, but I'm not on there a whole lot. I just tweet randomly, so
yeah,
more on Instagram.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, yeah. I will make sure to share that with all of our listeners. Again, good luck this week. We will be cheering you on, and enjoy the rest of your time in California, and we'll be watching you the rest of 2020.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Yeah.
Thanks for joining me this week. Let's continue the conversation online. You can find me at Golfish Podcast or at Miss Amy Goodman on Instagram. See you next week.